Hello, F.E.E.L podcast friends. Thanks so much for being with us today. We've got a new episode here for you with my friend Cheryl Schultz. Cheryl's another one of those wonderful women I've met through my connections at the Fresno County Women's Chamber of Commerce. So thankful for this wonderful organization and all the spectacular women that it has and continues to connect me with. But today you're going to get to hear from Cheryl. Boundaries, balance, and becoming you. Life lessons from Cheryl Schultz. The ways to engage with today's discussion are as follows. Think of those special qualities about yourself, like your character traits. What makes you who you are? What is different about you than from those surrounding you? There is something that each of us brings to the table that is unique, and it should be celebrated rather than hidden. We hope this gives you some really meaningful ways to engage and think about how you see yourself, identify yourself. Is there anything you're missing or not celebrating about yourself today as we listen to my friend Cheryl Schultz? Thanks so much for being with us. Hello, F.E.E.L podcast audience. Welcome to this week's episode, or today's episode, I should say. We got a couple of them following each week right now on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Today, I have a new friend with me, Cheryl Schultz. Cheryl and I met through Fresno County Women's Chamber of Commerce. She was one of the first people I met when I joined. We had a coffee together, and I just knew she would be such a great guest for this platform. She's going to have a lot to say about all of her talking points. She lives life so fully. In fact, she describes herself as adventurous. She went skydiving for her 60th birthday. Doesn't get much more adventurous than that. I love that. Never too late to do and learn new things. She's an animal advocate. She loves animals. She's losing sleep right now. Saving animals, literally. We'll let her talk more about that. But she loves animals, God, her family. She loves to travel. She's a learner. She's learned Italian and sign language, and she sings in her church with a group where she just won an award. She's just engaged with the community in so many different ways and brings her she just has this vibrant personality that really strikes you when she enters a room. So I'm so excited to welcome Cheryl Schultz to the F.E.E.L podcast. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. All right, let's get right into it. And this is something you're having to work with right now with the sleep stuff you've got going on and how your heart for taking care of these animals and others impacts you. But talk to me about prioritizing self-care in your life. What has your journey been like with that?
That's a great question. It's different every day. My schedule is different every day. And so I've had to learn that there's no one way that I need to take care of myself. I need to allow myself to give what I need for that moment. So this morning, because I knew I was going to be on this podcast, which I'm very excited about, and my husband's actually watching our 5 dogs in the other room, so they're not disturbing us. But when this morning, because I did not sleep well last night, and I honestly believed it was kind of for lack of a better way of saying it, like an attack to kind of prevent me from being on this podcast today, which was even more of a reason that I felt I need to go in prayer to cover this podcast and to get this message out for those that need to hear it.
Yeah.
So my self-care on a daily basis, I'm a strong follower of Christ. So I spend time in my Bible. I spend time with God every single day. And that's really important for me. But I also block out time on my calendar, time to take a bubble bath, time to go walk the dogs, time to make a nail appointment, whatever it might be, to work. I'm actually writing a couple of books right now. So to work on my book. So I literally put those on my calendar because we all are so busy and we just do not have the time if we don't make the time.
Yeah.
So you have to really make it a priority. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Have the time to make the time. I talk to women about this all the time. Sometimes women are like, oh gosh, if I put it in my calendar, is that too formal? No, you're worth being formal about. If that's what it takes to get you to carve out that time and space for yourself, it's that intentionality that sends yourself the message, I'm worth this, I'm worthy of this space, I'm valuable, and I need to make sure I'm pouring into myself in a way it's going to allow me to show up how I want to, not only for myself, but for other people. I mean, I think that's such an important piece of that. When have you always had a concept of that, or was this something you had to grow into over time?
Absolutely had to grow into it. I had no clue how to set boundaries when I was younger. I had no clue how to make myself a priority when I was younger. And you're totally on point, because if we don't make ourselves a priority, and that's not about puffing myself up and I'm more important than other people. It's not about that. But if I don't get the rest I need, if I don't get the self-care that I need, if I don't spend time with God that I need, that quiet time, and just have that kind of that peaceful moments that I need in my day, I'm no good for anybody. I can't help my husband. I can't be there for my daughter, my grandson. I can't be there to help animals. I can't be there to help the women's ministry. I can't be there to sing with the best of my ability in the barbershop chorus. I can't do anything that I'm called to do. And I can't really be the person that I'm meant to be. And one of the things that I'm so passionate about, Melissa, and one of the things I love to talk with you about, is that I think so many women, we go through more than half of our life serving other people and not fulfilling the call on our own life and being who we are purposely created to be, on purpose, live that purpose on purpose. And so we go through our life living for other people, doing for other people. Not that it's wrong to help other people, but you could go through your whole life. I remember I was working in a career. It was a sales career, and I was working with a life coach, and he said, Cheryl, he goes, I don't know what you're meant to do, but I can absolutely tell you that your purpose on this earth is not meant to be a salesperson for this company. Mm-hmm. And that really was like an aha moment where I thought, what am I supposed to do? I'm really good at this. I'm highly successful.
Yeah.
But he's right. It's not my calling. It's not my purpose. What is my purpose? And we need to find that. We need to discover that. And that's why we need those quiet moments to be able to figure out what that is. Because all the distraction, all the noise, just otherwise we'll just push it out and we have no clue.
You hit on two really important things there. One, listening and quiet so we can be spoken to, so we can hear and feel into and leave space for. And two, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that's your purpose. And I think sometimes we mistake, well, I'm really good at that, so it must, well, maybe in some seasons that's a place where that can show up. For sure, but it's not automatic. And I've talked to so many people, so many women, so many college age students who were going after a degree or chasing something that others had told them, you're really good at that, so you should do this. And they hadn't sat down to really consider, did that feel aligned to them? And many times later in their lives, they're at this point where like, I just don't feel like I'm in touch with who I'm supposed to be. I don't feel like I was made for something more different than this. And so I think it's very important to, if you're good at it, great. Look at your life and see if there's a space or place that fits in, but don't assume just because you're good at it that is supposed to be your primary purpose. I think that's so important and something that we can get stuck in. So I'm so glad you pointed that out. So good. All right, let's go into confidently setting boundaries. This is not a conversation our generation had growing up. We did not. This wasn't a conversation.
Boundary?
What? What?
What's a boundary?
What does that mean?
Exactly.
Boundaries where the state line is. I don't know. I mean,
exactly.
It was very geographical for us. It was not something that applied in our lives. And it's really, I would say, a conversation that's really only started coming up in the last 10 years. And so now, there's other words for it that many people have adopted. I know some women that were just naturally born with an inclination of what line not to cross with them and what, I mean, some people have that knack, but so many of us, because we get that messaging early on that we're supposed to show up for everyone else, no matter the cost for us, because putting ourselves first was selfish, we've had to unpack that and unlearn that and like, no. It's not selfish. It's actually the way that we can best show up as ourselves. For everybody wins when we do that. But we've had to like unlearn and relearn those things. So talk to me about that moment where you realized or understood that boundaries or whatever word you use for that needed to have a space and place in your life?
Well, I think first of all, we need to realize if we are feeling completely overwhelmed, we're underwater, and there's no way that we can come up for air, we probably need to learn how to set boundaries. We probably are not setting boundaries because there's too much going on. I think one of the downfalls of technology, and technology is great. I love that we are able to connect this way today. But one of the downfalls of technology is it gives us the false security that we can fit more into our day. And there's still only 24 hours in a day. Whether we have an iPhone or an Android, whatever kind of phone we have, or whether we don't use technology at all, there's only 24 hours in a day. So we can't jam more in just because we have technology that seems like we can pack it in tighter.
Yeah.
And when we do that, when we try and pack more in, we get so overwhelmed. We're drowning with commitments and obligations and this feeling of guilt that we can't let somebody down. We have to be there. And I think one of the things we have to do, and one of the things I've really had to learn, because I was very much that yes person. I will do whatever you ask me. I will do. I'm here for you. I will never. And I am a faithful friend. I'm a very loyal, devoted, person that if I tell you I will do something, I will be there for you. But I've really had to learn. There's got to be a line in the sand. I have to first of all look at this. And sometimes, recently, there was a woman I met recently at the chamber, and she's looking for volunteers for something. I thought, ooh, that sounds good. And then I had to pull myself back and say, ooh, I need to find out more about this. I need to pray about it. I need to see if it aligns with my values and my priorities. I need to see if this is really the right time in the right season for me to be doing this.
Yeah.
Is it something that is going to suck the life out of me? Is it going to be something that feeds me? Is it going to be something that helps me to reach my goals and is in alignment with, who I am and what my priorities are? So you really have to look at all that. And then sometimes you just have to really say, I would love to, but it's just, this is not the right season for that. Or this is just not the right time. I think where it gets difficult, Melissa, is there are some people, I'm sure you have them because I know I've had them in my life, that they do not allow you to set boundaries. Here's your line, and they're constantly stepping over that line. There's no way they're going to let you draw that line in the sand. You could draw it 100 times and they're going to constantly cross that boundary. So sometimes you have to be really firm with people and just, it may be losing a friendship. If it's not a healthy relationship, if somebody does not recognize that it's a healthy thing for you to do, right? To set boundaries, and you would be respectful of their boundaries in return. If they don't recognize that, then sometimes it means terminating that relationship. And that's hard, especially because we love to, take care of people and we have that nurturing. And I think women naturally, and I think we're created with a more nurturing heart. I think that's part of who we are, which is a great thing. But I also think that it doesn't mean that we are always supposed to do everything. And another way to look at it truly is that there are gifts and talents that I have that I'm meant to use, that I'm meant to share. But there are gifts and talents that you have that you're meant to use and that your audience has and they're meant to use. And if I'm trying to do everything for everybody and be everything to everybody, I'm kind of really, in essence, robbing other people who should be able to do that. Right. Yeah. So we want to share the wealth, let everyone have their little piece of the pie and know where we are lined up and what we are supposed to do and where we have to step back and say, thank you, but no, thank you.
Yeah. So, that was so many good points there. One, power in the pause. We talked about of just taking a moment. We've had several guests over, the last couple of years talk about some take 24 hours before they will say, this is a great opportunity. Let me take a look and think about this and I'll get back to you if at the end of next week or whatever it is. Power in the pause, going home, looking at it, because I run into the same thing. We hear so many we get to be connected with so many amazing women at the chamber and they're all doing amazing things. And I'll come out of a connect event or a meeting like, oh my gosh, this would be so incredible if I could volunteer there or give my time there. And then I have to go back home and look at my calendar and be like, maybe not right now. Or maybe I can support them in this way, but maybe not that way. So being intentional about that and going to what you said, there towards the end of, if we're doing everything, and somebody really was, a pastor we had many years ago, gosh, early 2000s, said this to me. And and she's like, I've had to learn that me showing up for everything as half myself is robbing someone else of showing up for something they were called to as their full selves.
I love
it
that.
was such a great way. Shout out to Joy Bradley, wherever you are, Joy, for bringing that to my attention, and something she had to learn. She had to learn that and realize that. I'm like, that's really smart across the board, to remember that. And then, our guest Valerie Rivera said to me one time that whatever you're saying yes to, it means you're saying no to something else. Make sure you're okay with saying no to that. And also make sure it's not you that you're saying no to every time, because then there's no space to fill your cup and sit in that pause to make sure these things are aligned for you. And you're going to show up the way you really want to and be remembered as in these spaces.
That's important. There was something that you said reminded me of a word that God spoke into my life last year. Mm-hmm. And he said, if your hands are so full of all these things, then you have no room to receive the new things I want to bring into your life.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have to let go of things so that we can receive the new things that God's bringing into our life in this season, right? And so it's not a bad thing to say no. Sometimes it's the best thing we can say, because it brings us into the place where we are open to then have the time and the ability and the availability to be able to move into something that is amazing that we wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. All right. Taking care of our emotional, mental, physical, spiritual health. These are all pieces and parts of our health and of our care. Talk to me about your journey of understanding the connection of those things in terms of your own health.
How to maintain my own health in these different areas.
Yeah. And how you came to that, because this is not something where health is very much taught in a vacuum and in a silo of, you go to your PCP and you do the blood work and you do all these things and they talk to you about your physical health, but very rarely do they ask you, have you been anxious lately? Have you had a move lately, a stressor in your life that is maybe impacting your blood pressure right now, or your heart rate, or, there's not been those connectivities. We're starting to talk about it and ask more about it now. But historically, that's not something we've heard, or understanding that if I continue to stuff that emotion, it's going to show up in a really costly way later. I've got to make time to feel that, move through that, process that, so it doesn't show up later as a raging headache or an explosion on my husband, or, those kinds of things. Yeah.
Our husbands appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think I'm very fortunate that I actually, my doctor, my actual physician that I see, is a naturopath and Western medicine together, which is great.
I love that.
She looks at the whole body, right? And she will ask those questions. So tell me about how you're feeling and what's been going on. I've gained weight lately. So what's going on? Tell me what's going on in your life. She tries to look at the other elements that contribute to our health. But you're right, we're very complex beings. People are not just about their physical health. They're not just about their emotional health. We're completely enmeshed together. We're completely blended, and we have to be able to nurture these different parts of ourselves. For me, like I said, I start off my morning with reading a bit of scripture and trying to spend a little quiet time, which is hard to do. Sometimes I've literally had to set my phone on a timer. This is embarrassing. For 5 minutes, just to say, for these 5 minutes, I'm just going to focus on God. I'm just going to be quiet and sit for 5 minutes. That's hard because we're so in this crazy rat race where we're constantly on the go. We've got appointments back to back to back, right? Yeah. Or we've got other people pulling demands on our time. So, so sometimes I have to force that time, but that again, when we give ourselves that breathing room that we need, it's like, it just refreshes us. It helps to calm us down, which helps with our physical health, right? It helps with our mental health. It helps to connect all those dots and to really, address all and recognize all those different parts of who we are. Just like we recognize like, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a wife, I'm a dog mom, I'm a cat mom, I'm a, ministry leader, I'm a barbershop quartet singer. I'm all these different things, right? All these different, I'm a student. I'm all these different things, but I can't do all of those at the same time.
Right.
But I can enjoy each part of that aspect. It's like, if you look at like if you look at some, I'm trying to think like not a Rubik's cube, but you've seen these, like almost like a shape, a geometrical shape, where it has all these different sides to it, right?
Yeah.
And it's all part of the same geometric structure, but they're all different parts, and so we need to help nurture each of those parts of our body, right? So maybe it's taking some time to go for a walk, to have that time to exercise, which is great for my health. It's also great for my emotional health. It's also helps my spiritual health, all that, right? Being out in nature. I love to be in nature, going for a bike ride or whatever it might be, having a glass of wine, sitting, listening to some nice music, maybe putting a mask on my face and just relaxing for 15 minutes, But all those things tie together to really help us to feed all those different parts of who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So good. Thank you so much for that. All right. How we can support ourselves and other women in living unapologetically. You show up very naturally in this way. You are such an advocate for women, about women, supporting women. That's just who you are. Like, that is really obvious from you from the time that anyone meets you, in my perspective. But talk to me. Do you see yourself that way, and what this looks and feels like for you?
I've had to learn to really grow into this. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I was really I was a people pleaser, which does not serve us well. It does not. We do not serve ourselves when we're being a people pleaser, know. And I think that to recognize, to encourage people to live unapologetically, is to really recognize who they are, who God created them to be. What I love about when God creates a person, that each of us are completely unique. And I was reading something, I thought this was so fascinating. I was reading about this, that when you have two individuals, that we are 99.5% identical, that it's only 0.5% in our DNA that's different. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
And I thought, isn't that fascinating, right?
Yeah.
But that 0.5% makes us totally different. It changes our personality, our hair color, eye color, our body type, our height, our weight, whatever, our ethnicity, our, everything about us, our personality, everything is different. So we want to embrace that tiny difference, and really just let that blossom, because that is what makes us so unique. And there are things that each one of us can bring to the table that only we can bring to the table.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to figure out why am I here in this season of my life? What is the purpose? What am I really meant to do? Like you said, just because we're good at it doesn't necessarily mean it's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was that for that small season.
Right.
But it doesn't mean forever after. And to figure out what we are and why we are in a particular place at that moment helps us to really understand how we can grow into what we're supposed to really be doing, and to show up as our best self. And when we can do that, especially for those of us that are over 40, if we can do that, we can help the girls that are in their 20s and their 30s and even their teens, even young girls. We can help them to really embrace who they are. And to grow into that, so they don't have to repeat the mistakes that we've made.
Exactly.
I think that mistakes aren't always bad, because we can learn from them.
Sure.
And we can recognize that. And I really do believe, my girlfriend has a saying, whenever I've gone through a tough time, she says, God never wastes our pain. And I love that, because sometimes the painful things we've gone through, the mistakes we've made, give us the ability to help somebody else where we would not recognize or be able to relate to them. Yeah. Right.
Wouldn't have known how to show up.
Yeah, right. So it gives us that ability to be compassionate and to be able to help them to then level up to the next, thing, the next place in their life. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that
Yeah.
it's so important that we authentically can show up, and there's only one way to do that. And that is to really be true to who you are, and be true to your vision, and be true to your values, and true to, like showing up as who you are. I can't be Melissa.
Right.
I could try and say, I'm going to do my podcast. I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a book just like that. I could try, but it's never going to be the same, because I'm not you, and you could never be me, because you're not me.
You spoke to showing up unapologetically for yourself and other women so well there. It was such a complete understanding of that. So thank you for your thoughts on that. And really what you said something, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, and this really goes into serving us and knowing our purpose. It's identifying your why and your values in everything you do. This is a big part of that. When you know your why and understand your values that guide you, that feeds into where your healthy boundaries need to be. That feeds into how you care for yourself. That feeds into you understanding what your purpose is. So talk to me about your journey with your why and your values.
Well, I want to also just mention that I think an important thing for women especially is to accept who we are with all of our imperfections. Yeah. Because in my humble opinion, God does not make mistakes. And when he created me with my body type, my hair color, whatever, that's exactly who he created me to be. I always tell people, I said, how when you're a little girl, you want to pretend you're a princess. Well, I am a princess because I'm a daughter of the king, right? So I get to be a princess my whole life. I love it.
Yeah.
But what's so great about that is I can accept and embrace who I am. Not just accept as like, oh, well, I accept who I am. It's not going to get any better. This is just who I am. No, really joyfully embrace, I'm this person because this is exactly who I'm meant to be. So I can do all the amazing things that I was designed to do, that I was created to do. I can show up knowing that I have a purpose. And so that really helps to like inspire me to really just love who I am, not with this, not with a love where I'm just like so self-centered and focused on just myself, but really understanding that even with my mistakes, even with my flaws, even with my imperfections, my physical imperfections, all of that, because our society has such a strong focus on having the perfect hair color, the perfect eye color, the perfect figure, and the perfect clothing, and everything is got, and everything is based around that. But that is such a minor part of who we are. Who we are is like, what are our dreams? What is our vision? What do we do that makes an impact on others? How do we show up and make a positive difference in the lives of people or animals or our environment or whatever it is that's important to us? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I think that in doing that and knowing that, it's like you really do connect to, this is who I am. This is my core. This is deep inside of me. This is what I embrace, and I grab onto that joyfully because I'm so glad to know that that's who I am. Right. It's not about accepting, it's not like a second place or last, I got a trophy, but it's like, it's the last prize, or it's not like that. It's, I'm showing up fully knowing that I am special and I have something to bring to the table. And every single woman does. Everyone does. It's just plugging into that and figuring out. And yesterday on our way to church, I told my husband, I said, I love animals. He goes, yeah, I know. I get this about you.
We're clear on that.
Yeah. And I said, but I was thinking about this, and I've always loved animals. I really think it's who God created me to be. I think I'm supposed to be doing this. It's part of my purpose. I'm here. I would tell people one of my ministries is take care of God's creatures on earth. And I do believe that because not just because I have a lot of pets, but because when I was a little girl, I loved, dolphins. And when I would rescue stray animals when I was a child. And I just always had this passion to help these animals in need. And so it's really part of who I am. You know, and so now that I'm 64, it's like going back, it's like, gee, this is probably I probably should have, instead of gone into sales, I probably should have become a veterinarian. That would have been great, because that would have really aligned with my purpose of my calling and what my passion is, right? It's not too late. There's other ways I can help and I can achieve that.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to know too.
Yes. Yes. And you spoke so well to that, embracing those parts of yourself. And we're going to come back to that in a bit when we talk about accepting the layered aspects of yourself, because you have a very great understanding of this. But because you align so clearly with your why and your values and how you set up your time and what you pour yourself into, it really helps you to live out of your own expectations versus others. Talk to me about, because as people pleasers, that's usually something we have to move into. We spend a lot of time showing up in ways that other people want us to, expect us to, and it takes some time for us to move into that. I need to be the one defining this. And this comes from identifying healthy boundaries and knowing your why and values and sitting in the quiet and really listening and being in touch with and filling your cup, but also feeding into what your purpose is. So talk to me about that transition into really living out of your own expectations versus others.
Interesting you say that, because I mentioned that it probably would have been great if I had become a veterinarian. When I was a young, like maybe 15, 16-year-old girl, my uncle was a doctor, and he was quite a handsome man, if I say so myself. And I had a crush on my uncle. And I was interested in going to medical school. And my parents thought, oh, that'd be so great. And we lived on the East Coast at the time in New York. And my parents thought, well, have you go to Brown University. It's this amazing medical school. It's in Rhode Island and Boston, wherever it's located. And so they were going to have me go to school there. And then we then moved to California. And when I was living in Southern California, I decided to go to Sonoma State University in the Bay Area, because it was a great pre-med school. It was small. It had, I think, like maybe 5,000 students at the time, where like UCLA had like 20,000 students. And I didn't want to be drowned with that many students. My first time away from home. So I went to Sonoma State. And as I was taking all these pre-med classes, I really struggled. It really, as much as I love, and I'm so thankful today, because I don't agree with some of the direction that I see our medical system go into, how much they're controlled by insurance companies, how they ignore really taking care of your body and being proactive. It's more just about taking a pill to treat
downstream
something
instead of upstream.
I don't agree with it. So I'm so thankful I did not go into medicine. It does not align with who I am or what I believe. And I just think it's tragic what's happened. But if I had really, when I was 15, or 18 or 20, if I had embraced what I was really passionate about, and that is really, like animals and taking care of animals, I would have still been able to go into medicine, but from a perspective that really aligned with my passion for taking care of animals. Right. So, and again, not that it's too late. There's other things that I can do in this time in my life where I can still, walk in that purpose of who I'm meant to be. But it's just an example of how we can go through our whole life disconnected from who we are, because we were trying to live up to somebody else's expectations. I got married young to my first husband, dropped out of school. My parents were very upset about that. So obviously I wasn't going to become the first doctor of their children. And so that was very upsetting. My brothers didn't become doctors either. So none of us became doctors. And, very upsetting to my poor Jewish mom. But, but anyway, but that was their dream. They thought that they were trying to help us fulfill our dream. But even then, as a teenager, I knew that I was being pushed in a direction that did not sit right with me. It didn't resonate with me. And I think we all have that gut feeling. We all know when something is like, this just doesn't, I don't know. You may not know what it is. I may not have recognized I'm not meant to go to medical school to be a medical doctor, right? Or whatever. You might not know, but you get this gut and you go, there's just something that doesn't sit right with me. And we need to listen. I think God often speaks to us internally like that. We get that gut. And I always tell people, I said, I'm a firm believer that the Holy Spirit leads by peace. He guides by peace. If we're feeling angst, if we're feeling, should I do this? You need to just sit on it and just, you be still and just ask God, you show me if I'm supposed to do this, because I am not feeling peace about this. And if that peace never comes, then I think we need to walk away and recognize that is not the direction we're supposed to go in, and that would, if we would do that when we're a lot younger, then more and I think that's what I'm so passionate about. And that's why I was so thrilled when you and I met, because one of my passions is to help women. Hey, let me help you shortcut the process. Don't wait till you're 50 or 60 before you figure out who you're meant to be, because you can figure it out when you're way younger and live a life that is so fulfilling. And not that my life has not been fulfilling, but I think I could have achieved so much more that aligned with my purpose. I probably would have not gotten married to people that were the wrong fit for me because they didn't align with my purpose. So it connects to every area of our life and everything we do.
Yeah. And you just defined so much of the reason and the core reason I got into this. I'm like, let's have these conversations. Let's get this information in the hands and the hearts and the heads of our young women. And it's so that they have this understanding framework from the get-go, because it's so important. Things that are, when we're feeling angst and fear, that's trying to tell us something. That's
Those are
like
red flags. Yes.
They are. And trust that. Listen to that. Pay attention to that. It's there for a reason. I'm so glad you brought that up. So important. Thank you so much for that. Such great examples and so relatable. All right. You've spoken to this already, but we're going to revisit it. Accepting the layered aspects of ourselves. All those pieces and parts that make up who we are, the parts we love, the parts we don't. We just talked about, if I'd known or trusted then what I know now, there's some relationship choices I wouldn't have made. We all have those pieces. I've got a relationship choice that I made in my senior year of high school that oh, no, that would not have made that. What was I thinking? And also, given where I was at the time and what I knew, I understand that. So I think it's that you talked about that earlier, embracing, realizing we can learn from those mistakes and really approaching them with curiosity rather than judgment. So we're not shrouded in shame around them or embarrassment or wanting to hide them or not process them and move through them. You've got a really firm, good understanding of that. When would you say you got there to that understanding of this importance of embracing?
I would sadly have to say it probably was not until I was in my mid 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, thinking back, that's pretty tragic that I spent, the first 40, 45 years of my life not embracing who I am, not embracing my true values, not living in alignment with what was really most important to me, trying to live based on others' expectations, trying to please other people. I mean, when you look back on it, you're thinking, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Right? Why would I try and live my life to please other people? Why would I live my life based on others' expectations or what they think is important? Why would I do that? Mm-hmm. But we are raised with those expectations so often, so subtly placed upon us that we don't recognize that that's what we're doing. And we think that we're getting, because there is a very fine line. Mm-hmm. We do want to be open and receptive to ideas, and maybe someone makes a suggestion. Oh, I never thought about doing that with my career. I'll have to check into that. I never thought about, someone told, when I was writing a book, I was when I started writing my book, I'm thinking, I don't even like reading books. I listen to audiobooks because I don't sit my attention well just to sit and read unless I want to go to sleep, because it kind of puts me to sleep. That's not my thing. So I'm like, why would I write a book? I don't even like to read books. Why would I write one? Well, I'm writing 3. I'm writing Storybook, which is a gift that my cousins gave me, which sends you questions every week and you answer it and something you pass on to your family. I'm writing my own life story, which I haven't come up with a title yet. You and I might have to talk about that one. And then I'm writing a children's book. So I'm writing 3 different books, and I'm thinking, and when I was at a women's retreat about 1.5 years ago, this woman said, I believe that God has called a lot of you women sitting in this room to do things or has spoken promises into your life that you have not fulfilled yet. I want you to sit and pray and ask God what those things are. Well, God has spoken many things into my life, many promises, and you and I can discuss those on another call or another coffee. But he has spoken many things into my life that have not come to pass yet, which I'm very excited about. But when I sat there to pray, the Lord said to me, get back to writing your book. And I'm like, seriously, God?
Mm.
And I'm
That's
like,
not what the answer I was looking for.
no, it was not. It was the least expected answer, and really what I didn't want to hear. And I had been writing for a couple of years, and I was stuck. And I was like, Lord, if you want me to get back to writing this book, you're going to have to give me. So here I am arguing with God, right? You're going to have to give me some fresh ideas because I have no clue what to write. I'm totally stuck at this point. Well, the next morning I woke up and it was like all these ideas popping, and I started writing stuff down. And I had chapters that I was able to write from that one conversation. All these things. What about this? Write about this. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
So we have to be open to receiving direction, and we have to be open to changing direction, because sometimes we have to leave something behind, and we'll come back and revisit that.
Yeah.
And we have to be okay with letting go of things. I think that as women, sometimes we don't like to let go of things.
Yeah.
And that leads to us being overburdened. So knowing where we are and knowing where we are in this particular season is important.
Yeah.
Because there are things that we could do last year or 5 years ago that is not what we're supposed to be doing right now. And so we have to really, that's why that sitting and being quiet and really figuring out, what does that look like? Is this something I need to let go of totally at this point in my life? Or is this something I need to be let go of for a time? And maybe I can pick it back up again.
Yeah.
And that's part of, accepting those layers of ourselves, because we can't just keep putting things on top of, you're talking about layers. We're putting layer upon layer upon layer upon, right? If we, eventually we're going to be so burdened down because we have all these things on top of us. And sometimes we go, oh, I need to take this layer off so I can take on this layer. And that's refreshing, and it's easy, right? That yoke is light. It's easy to carry. So it's not burdensome. When we start to feel burdensome, that's when we know that that's God's way of going ding, 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 ding. Hello, you're taking on too much, So, and we need to pay attention to that.
Yeah, 1,000%. Oh, so many good things there. I mean, first, I think it's that learning to, for me, I was really age 50 that got my attention, and I really started doing the work I needed to do to live as my full authentic self, go on the healing journey I needed to, all those things. And it's hard to not look back and be like, oh, if I could have just been in the space then that I am now with this situation, and having to hold the nuance of I wasn't, and given where I was at the time, I did the best I could. And also this is where I'm at now. So this is where I can operate from. And I will be the healthiest version and do the best I can from here moving forward, and being able to, hold that nuance and acceptance. But I've loved how you pointed out that we continue to have things to come up, because life does not stop. So many times there's so many narratives and culture about, and it's getting better, partly because I think our generation is speaking to it so well and so loudly. There is life after 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, however long it is you are designed to be on this earth. There is purpose. There's opportunity to learn. There's opportunity to grow. And there's opportunity to continue to live out the different parts of your life that you were designed to. So continuing to stay open to that, receiving that, being excited about that is such a great motivator to continue to show up authentically every day, regardless of our age or season.
I think also too, you mentioned something that made me think about this, and that is that it is okay. There are seasons and times in our life where we need to just have that time to not do anything, to just rest and to be okay with that. Right? To be okay with not being busy. Sometimes we stay busy because we don't want to feel emotions. We don't want to, and sometimes the emotions that we think we're feeling are not really the emotion. It's more of a reaction to something that triggered an emotion, but it's not. Maybe we're feeling angry about something, but really the emotion is that we're feeling rejection. So I think that we need to recognize that sometimes we need to give ourselves the grace and really take care of ourselves and allow that quiet non-busy time to refresh us so that when those busier times come, that we have the energy and the fortitude and the drive and the motivation and the excitement to move forward with enthusiasm and with, bring our best selves forward because we're rested and we're in a good place. When we don't allow us to have that time, and we all need those breaks. We can't just go, 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 go. In the Bible, they talk about having a Sabbath, right? Like having a day to rest. They're like, God created the earth in 6 days and he rested. If God needed to rest on a day, I think it's probably a good sign that we probably need to have a day to rest, right? Just saying. But it's just, but really we need to have that. And in our society today, everything is go, go, go. Let me see my calendar. I've got appointments from 9 to 1, and then but I'm free from 1 to 2. I'm busy at 2 o'clock. I'm busy at 4, 4:35. But from 1 to 2 or from 2:30 to 3, I've got a window I can fit you in there, right? No, stop. Right? Take a breath, right? Don't book yourself so that you're so crazy busy, because there's nothing wrong with having moments to rest in our day. There's nothing wrong with having a Saturday or a Sunday or a weekend where we have nothing on the calendar, right? We don't have to go anywhere. We need that time, and we need to be able to take care of ourselves and to recognize that there are seasons and times that we have to allow that, in our lives. And I think people in general, but certainly women, are afraid to do that because they feel like they're not doing enough. They're not giving enough. They're not being their full self. But again, it's like you're working in this vicious circle. You have to allow yourself to do that in order to be your best self. It's part of that formula.
It is 1,000%. And some people call, sometimes it's referred to as the winter of your life. We need a winter, a time to snuggle in and get warm and get quiet and listen and not move a lot other than in the space that makes us feel rejuvenated and healthy. And it's so unorthodox for our society to take that time to refuel. But also, you said something so important. We get so uncomfortable with the uncomfortable, and we need to be able to sit with that discomfort and let us know where it's coming from. So, because if we don't allow space to move through process, identify that, heal that, it will continue to show up in harmful ways in other spaces. And and we want to make sure that no one else is receiving the poison from that unhealed space. And so I'm so glad you brought that up. That's such a powerful reminder. And so if you are feeling, I was watching something yesterday, and it was a show where a woman was really just like scrambling to I don't know how to show up right now. I don't know who I am. And she had a new baby, and the woman said to her, why don't you just focus on being you and his mom right now, and just enjoy this space, enjoy this in between, instead of feeling like you've got to be clamoring and grabbing for more. Maybe your more isn't ready for you yet, or you aren't ready for your more yet. So why don't you just enjoy this thing that you've wanted for so long, you spent so many years waiting for, and just show up and be your authentic self in this moment with him. And it was such a good reminder of it doesn't always, we have this idea in our culture that not having a full calendar means we're unproductive. And being productive is overrated, because just because you're productive doesn't mean you're feeding into your purpose or showing up in the way the world needs you to. It just means you're checking things off a list. And if you're just productive all the time with no time to fill your cup or quiet or listen, then what does that productive really mean or look like? And so, thank you so much for that. So good. So good. All right.
Great comments that you made too. And I think that, that you mentioned something about when you're not processing emotions correctly, you're not allowing yourself that time to heal, that they will come back, and they are like poison. It's kind of like your emotions are kind of like tires in a junkyard, right? They keep surfacing. They never really go away until you completely figure out, what was that about? Why did I react that way? Why did I get into that situation that allowed me to get hurt that way, or in that situation? How could I have done it better. And then when you allow yourself to fully heal, then you are able to step forward and those don't come back and haunt you. Those old hurts don't come back and haunt your present. And we all want to be able to grow because we all are, like you said, whether you're 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, we all have the opportunity every day to wake up. And my dad used to say, every day on the side of the dirt is a good day. Right.
Yeah,
and so, and grow. And grab on. I used to tell my daughter, life is an adventure. Grab onto every opportunity you can that comes your way. So when you're an old woman sitting on your rocking chair and reliving your memories, you'll have a life full of memories to look back on. Don't just be someone that observes other people living their life to the fullest. You go live your life to the fullest, right? Because then not only are you creating the best life for you, but you're impacting so many others in such a powerful way.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Oh, Cheryl, thank you for all of that. So much good there. All right. This is really, I think, really wraps things up really well. But in living out F.E.E.L, which you do so well, finding empowerment, embracing layers, talk to me about how that has impacted your relationship with yourself, as well as your relationship with other people.
That is a great question. And I love your acronym, by the way. I think that is awesome.
Thank you.
I think that, we've talked about this a lot. I think it's important that we joyfully embrace who we really are, that we take the time to really discover who we are.
Yeah.
And we embrace who that is. We may not today like everything about ourselves, and that's okay. It's okay because we can change, we can grow, we can become, better at things that maybe we're not excelling in today. Right. But, and a very simple example of that, which is not an important thing, but my learning Italian, I've been trying to learn Italian for a decade. And just in the last couple of months, all of a sudden I read something in Italian. It's like, oh, I know what that said. I can just look at it. And I know what they're talking about. This is so, it's like it clicked. Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a process, and you made a very good statement that one of the things that we need to do is for us to be able to show up as more, for us to be able to connect with others in a healthy way, we have to, know all those things we've talked about, know our core value, know who we are, know what our strengths and weaknesses are. So we know what our gifts are, what we're meant to share. We know what our why is, what our purpose is, know what our weaknesses are so that we know maybe what we need to work on, right? Maybe, we're really impatient, so one of the things that I have to always work on with my husband, I'm Italian, and in my family, I am not a talkative person. I know that's hard to believe. People are shocked when I tell them that. But in my family, I could not get a word in edgewise with my grandfather. Okay. My husband comes from a German family who they're not real talkative, and they don't talk. So it's more like, here's the talking stick. It's now your turn to talk. And that's just so odd to me. I'm like, I can't communicate like that. So my husband and I are always having this go around of me interrupting him, right? Because I don't talk that way. We have very different communication styles. But part of me embracing the layers and figuring out who I am and really wanting to be the best self that I can be, the best Cheryl that I can be, is to learn that I need to recognize that I need to be able to, and it's not all on me. I mean, he also has to learn this too, but we have to learn how to respect that I need sometimes when I'm feeling like I want to interject, that I need just to say, take a breath, like you said, pause, and allow him to have that time. So he feels valued. He feels important. He feels listened to. Right. So part of my journey impacts my husband because it helps me to be a better wife, better partner for him. It helps me to show up better as someone when I go to church, that I can better serve others and be compassionate because I've gone through things that other women are sharing with me, some of the stories and struggles that they're going through. And it's like, me too. Let me share with you my story and how God showed up in my life and how I grew through that and how it gets better on the other side. I promise. It always gets better, even if you can't see it yet. Helps me to become that person where I can show up and I can help those animals. I mean, I've thought about, well, should I go back to work right now? Or because I'm retired, right? And I thought, should I go back to work? And, everything's expensive right now. Everyone's struggling financially. I mean, and money's tight for everybody, right? It's just tighter because things are more expensive. And so, but every time I apply for anything, it's like the door's shut. It's like, oh, apparently this is not the door that God wants me to walk in. But because if I was working full time, I wouldn't have the time to be here today at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the time to drive down to Southern California to rescue a dog that we need to save so she's not euthanized. I wouldn't be able to take off time in the middle of the week and go see my grandson. I wouldn't be able to do those things.
Yeah.
So I love that where I'm at and embracing that and accepting that and going, this is not just okay. This is great. This is a really great thing. This is not just an okay place that it's like, oh, I'm okay for now. No, it's like, I'm thrilled where I'm at because it allows me to do these things that I could not do otherwise.
Yeah.
And when we are able to do that, then that's when we can bring that best self.
Yeah,
forward.
absolutely.
So,
yeah. Great examples there. And I always tell women when I'm working with them, when I bring this framework to them as something to, all right, we're going to give you a framework to help you really live as your most authentic, healthy self, trusting yourself, all those things. I always say this work starts with you first. You're not, and so it's so important, those pieces of knowing who you are, embracing your value, your layers, communicating your expectations and healthy boundaries, putting time for yourself in your calendar each day. Don't fill that 1 to 2. Use it as a time to walk around the block, step outside, take a breath, do a meditation, just sit in the quiet. I try to daily. I will put you talked about timers earlier. I can totally relate to this. I'll put my timer on for 10 minutes. And usually if it's not too hot, we're in Fresno, so we're about to get to a I will go outside in an area underneath my patio that's in the shade and just sit out there for 10 minutes, listen to the birds, the rustling through the trees, and just no noise, no podcast, no phone, no music, no phone conversation, just quiet to let everything settle. And so it's doing those things and understanding that about ourselves and how we can fill our needs, because I think we have to learn over time that in relationships, those relationships aren't there to fill a void. They're there to be a choice to add to our life and for us to add to their life. But when we've done this work with ourselves, we can show up that way in those relationships. And you gave some great examples. I get the whole not being the loudest person in your family and people not believing it. That is me in a nutshell. I had to fight and claw to be heard in my family. And so interrupting is a very real thing I've had to work on in communication. Most of the time I get excited about something and I want to jump in, but also because I want to make sure I'm heard. And my husband and I have had a lot of back and forth about that over the years. He's just like,
right.
And so, yeah. Right. And so it's like, I realized oh my gosh, for him, it's like, I have to listen. I have to let him be seen and heard and it's okay to listen. I'm going to get my opportunity. He's not going to shut me down. Other people that I'm in communication with, I'm going to get my moment, but listen intentionally instead of planning my response and being ready to jump in, because that way I can actually respond accordingly. Or do I need to respond, or do they just need someone to listen to them in that moment? Right, so many times too. And so I was like chuckling to myself. I'm like, oh, so relate to that. So relate to that. So thank you for that example and sharing that with us. All right.
May I share with you a quick clip from a blog that I wrote back in October 2023. I told my husband I was going to go on a date with God. My husband's like, have a great time. I'll see you when you get home. I said, great. Because I really need to just have that time to be quiet with God. And I knew if I stayed home with the animals and there's always the laundry to do and the kitchen dishes, there was always something to do. I wanted to be alone. So I just got in the car and I drove, and I just really tried to see where I was supposed to go. And I was driving along and I got to this beautiful pond. Never had seen this place before. And it just so happened, it was in October. So the trees were beautiful and they were reflecting in the water. The water was very still and very calm. And the trees were just like a mirror. Yeah. If you've been to Yosemite, like Mirror Lake, it was like that. Yeah. And so I was just waiting on God there. And the Lord spoke to me. He said, do you see the reflection in the trees? He said, that's how you and I are. You're the reflection of me. You're not perfect. I'm perfect, but you're a reflection of me. And as he was telling me this, a breeze came and all of a sudden the water was stirred, right? And he said, "Do you see the reflection of the trees now?" And I said, "No." And he said, "That is how it is with you. When things are clear, in the stillness and quiet, you'll hear my voice." He goes, "I don't compete for your attention. I'll patiently wait for you to lay aside your distractions so you can focus on me." And then it reminded me in the Bible, and I said I read a lot in the Bible. So, but it was reminded me in the Old Testament, there's a story where Elijah was waiting to hear from God. And there was a great and mighty wind that was tearing at the mountains and it was shattering the cliffs. But God wasn't in the wind. And then there was, after the wind, there was this massive earthquake and the earth was shaking, but God was not in the earthquake. And then there was this huge fire that took place, but God was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was a soft, quiet whisper. And that's where he heard God. And so it's in that stillness. It's so important. I always joke around because Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." And I always joke and I said, the be still part's the hardest part of the whole verse. Because it's so hard to be still. And what you said is so true. We have to be still. We have to take that time to allow ourselves to hear, to allow ourselves to just be, and to be okay with that. And it's hard when you're not used to that. It's very hard to be still. But once you engage in that practice and you're able to do that, there's nothing better because it refreshes it's like a fountain of water that like refreshes your soul. It refreshes your life. It just energizes you. It's just so amazing. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing that can compete. And I said, and that is the biggest thing I think we don't see in people's lives today because they're so connected to their phone. They're so connected to their iPad, their Apple Watch, whatever. They can constantly look at their watch, check their texts, whatever. And so it's hard to get away from all the noise. But when we do, that's when we can really connect with ourselves and our purpose and show up.
Yeah. So good. Yeah, absolutely. It's that. And I think going back to, that's where things really refresh and our nervous system settles. Like it's a whole piece of it. Like, if you've been going, and you can just operate here all day and you might get a lot done, but you're not, that's that hyper vigilant go mode is not a great place for your nervous system to stay in. We weren't designed to stay in that. And so giving ourselves this space to settle. And sometimes we need to retrack. I think one thing I have learned in this is that there are days, this happened with you and I, where I had settled, I'd listened, and I needed to reach out and be like, something's come up today with my family, and I need to reschedule this. I need to tend to this. And I needed to tend to myself in this. And I would not have done that 7-8 years ago. I would have like, oh my gosh, I've got this on my calendar. I need to honor Cheryl's time. I have to do this. And it wouldn't have been the conversation it needed to be because I wouldn't have been fully present as much as I would have tried. And so, just don't be afraid to take that space.
And you bring up a great point, Melissa. The very first time you and I got together one-on-one, we met for coffee. And I was rushing out the door. I was like, I don't have time for makeup. I don't have time to put anything fancy. I'm throwing on this skirt and this t-shirt and out the door we go, right? And when I got there, you showed up in sweats. I think you had just done a workout, right? And I thought, thank God that she can just be real. Don't be afraid to be real. Don't have to put on airs and pretend that if your day is hectic and hey, I barely got my teeth brushed and put clothes on before I got out the door. That's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be perfect to show up and be yourself. And have people in your life that know that you don't have to be perfect, right? Don't if you've got people in your life and they expect that every time you show up that you're perfectly coiffed and you're dressed. I mean, I told you I have a house full of pets. I have cats and dogs. I'm helping my husband demolition a thing in our patio this afternoon. I'm dressed up for you this morning because I knew I was going to be on this podcast, right? I normally do not look like this. I don't show up like this, and it's okay. It's fun when I do. I love it because it's like, oh, this is kind of fun. I get to play dress up today. This is cool. But normally I'm in my jeans or sweats or my swimsuit and whatever, and I'm just there. I don't have makeup on, and it's okay. Because, people just need to be okay with just, you show up as who you are and the people that are meant to be in your life will love you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be.
Yeah. Yeah. That safe space where you can land with for each other. Absolutely. So good. Thank you so much for that. All right. We are down to the rapid fire. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
5 activities that nourish me. Well, like I said, spending time with God, that's got to be my number one. I start every day that way. So that's my number one. I love to enjoy time in nature. I love to I love adventures. So whether it's going on a picnic, on an unexpected drive somewhere, working with the homeless, I've done that before, spending time with family and friends. My husband and I went on a drive one time, and it was so fun because it was someplace we had not gone before. So every time we'd get to a bend in the road, like if we had to take a straight or turn right or left, he'd say, which way? I go, let's go left. And then the next time he would go, I go, which way should we go? He goes, let's go left again. I'm okay. And we got back in the hills, and then we were on this rickety little road that was barely wide enough for our truck to get through. But it was an adventure, and we had a great time. And it's one of our best memories, right? Because we just let it go, so that's fun to do. I enjoy painting. I watercolor. So I do enjoy that. At music, like I said, studying languages. So, those are things that really, and spending time with all my fur babies, that all those things really nurture me.
Yeah. Oh, so good. All right. 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
I had to really think about this one. This was, when I saw this, I felt like I'm pretty I'm not spot on, but I'm pretty good here. I can, you set me kind of an idea of what the general outline would be of our conversation. I thought, I'm totally good with this. This is going to be, pretty natural. And then I got this last question. I'm like, ooh, this is a hard one. So I had to really think. I'm like, wow, it kind of caught me on surprise. 5 words I would like to feel. I would like to feel joyful in all circumstances. And that's sometimes hard. So I would like to feel refreshed, which means I'll probably get more sleep tonight than I did last night. So that's a good thing. I would like to be content, not satisfied, because I think content is like, I'm content where I am for now, but there's always bigger things ahead. There's always more. So not necessarily satisfied, because I always want to be not striving, but moving forward to the next great chapter of my life. Right. Yeah. But content where I am for now, knowing, as you said earlier, that sometimes that more hasn't happened yet because of something that maybe has to happen in us. Maybe it's something that has to happen in other people, so that they can be lined up and be in the right place to connect with us at the right time. So sometimes it's just a timing issue. And I think it's hard sometimes to be patient for that. Yeah. So I want to work on that. And then being sure in the sense of knowing that I'm living where I'm supposed to be, like walking in where I'm supposed to be at this moment, at this time in my life. So doing that, and then accomplished. And that would have to speak more to, I'd like to be more accomplished in my watercolor painting, because they're pretty rudimentary. I would like to be more accomplished in my fluency in sign language and Italian. In sight reading, I'm taking music lessons as well. So I'd like to be able to sight read. So I'd like to be more accomplished in some of these things that I'm learning. Yeah.
I love that, though, because the accomplished piece, I think, is so aligned with the things that you're wanting to be accomplished in, are so aligned with who you are. They're so aligned with what lights you up and what you value. So I love how you've been able to connect those in a very healthy way, because accomplished can take on a lot of meanings for people. But when you align it with those things that are part of what you value, that are part of your why, that are part of who you are, it can be a really beautiful motivator, I think, to continue down that path.
So, and I should add on accomplished too, one of my passions and one that I pray about often is that I always ask God to give me just like open the windows of heaven. So I have tons of money, because I want to open an animal sanctuary that will help animals around the country. So I would love that to be part of that accomplished too. I would love to see that vision come to pass.
I love that. Just manifest that. Let's go.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Cheryl, this has been such a great conversation. I knew from the moment I met you, I'm like, oh, she'll be really, really a great guest on here on this platform. She's going to have so much wisdom and resources, and just really thoughtful, authentic thinking and conversation. And I appreciate that so much about you. Let women know how they can find you, follow you, learn more about you. And this will be on our resources page at embracinglayers.com as well. But are there any places that people can engage with you?
I have actually a website, cheryl-schultz.com. So, and if they go to that website, in fact, I need to go in there and update some of my blogs, but they'll see my blogs, they'll see some of my recipes, they'll see some of my recommendations for travel and for pets, and also ways that they can connect with me as well.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks so much for being with me today. I've appreciated this conversation so much.
Thank you.
Ladies, your challenge this week out of this is I want you to make sure you're taking a moment for yourself each day. Give yourself that space. You heard Cheryl and I talk about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour. It matters. Put it in your calendar. Leave that space and time for you to refresh, to renew, to listen, to settle. I think it's just so much value in that. We appreciate you being here with us and listening today. Thanks again, Cheryl, for this great conversation. Like I said, listeners, go to embracinglayers.com. Check out how you can learn more about Cheryl and all of the resources that we have there to support you. We appreciate you giving us some of your time today. Take good care, and we'll be back with you soon.
Thank you.
Hello, Melissa Crook here. Thank you so much for joining us on the F.E.E.L podcast today, Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers. I hope you found today's framework and resources supportive and informative. To learn more about all that we offer here at the Embracing Layers Network, visit embracinglayers.com. You can go to our contact form to schedule me as a speaker for your next conference, workshop, or seminar. You can go to our book page to order our book that Jessica Garrison, our wonderful and talented writer and author, authored with my support. And engage with this framework in written form, with your journal, or in a book club with other women, inviting them on this journey with you. You can look at our resources page for all of the helpful and insightful resources our guests offer and share. You can find the schedule for our weekly Together We Feel women's panel conversations that we're holding each Monday on our YouTube channel. And you can find the links to all the spaces and places you can follow, engage with us on social media, and join our engagements that are happening on our Substack site. There is also a donation page where you can donate to support our work to ensure we can continue to bring you these incredible guests, conversations, and support. Thanks again for joining me this week. Share with your friends and give us a review on your favorite listening platform. Your feedback helps us ensure we're bringing you the content that will best support you in having an empowered, embracing layers journey. Take good care, and thanks for giving us some of your valuable time today. We truly appreciate you so deeply.